Hello Africa, welcome to Bite-Sized Democracy, a weekly show that focuses on issues around democracy on the African continent. Our show gives you a snapshot of what's happening on the continent in fun, informative bite-sized segments. Do join us in conversation. Please follow us on Twitter at @Afrique_democratic and do like our Facebook page, African Democratic Institute. On today's show, I have Dr. Nervous Mumba from MMD in Zambia. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, and to all those that have joined us, it's a great honor to be here.
Might as well get into it.
It is, yes.
Okay, you served in President Manawasa's government, and now you're in opposition. You lived on both sides of the spectrum. You've had different experiences in both roles, and what are the key lessons that you've learned?
First of all, I think that by virtue of having served as Vice President of my country, it gave me an opportunity to get a feel of what it takes to preside over the many challenges that face our people in Zambia and in Africa in general. And so I think it has given me a measured view of how to handle politics. Being in opposition now allows me to actually criticize myself for some of the things and the manner in which I handled some of the things when I was in office. And so I look at the opportunity that I've had as a tremendous opportunity, because it has given me a full scope of what I think makes Africa not work sometimes, and what would actually make Africa work. Sometimes the disadvantage of just being on one side is that you are extremely extreme, that you do not see the challenges that are on the other side. So I think, having been part of government, holding that high position, it gave me an opportunity to appreciate the challenges that governments in Africa in general face, having to deal with the poverty levels, having to deal with the corruption in the system, and why it takes them so long to deal with those matters. Being in opposition gives me a sharp eye to see great flaws in how we run our countries on the continent. So I feel extremely privileged and honored that I had the opportunity to serve in government and now in opposition and on my way back into government.
Those are great lessons. And then last year was a very challenging year for you. You were arrested on trespassing charges. Do you think that's generally how the opposition is treated in Zambia? Do you think it had anything to do with you being in opposition?
It's not a question of do I think that it had anything to do with opposition. Of course it had everything to do with the fact that I'm in the opposition. I think Africa has come to a place where we either change or we continue to go down and continue to be underdogs. In Zambian politics today, I'm sad to say that as long as you are an opposition member or leader, you are not going to be handled using the same rules as those who are in the ruling party. The goal of a lot of governments in Africa, and in Zambia in particular, is to decimate or destroy, disrupt the opposition political parties by either intimidation or just punishment. Until governments in Africa get comfortable with themselves and also accept that we are not going anywhere as opposition. Opposition will always be there. They might as well just learn to deal with being criticized. The thin skin of some of the politicians is not going to help Africa at all. So it's regrettable that last year was extremely rough for some of us. But obviously, compared to what other people on the African continent go through in the opposition, I think my experience was a minor discomfort of being in cells, in jail, and now in court. I'm still appearing in court for that case.
Okay, you just answered my next question, so I'll just go to the next one. There's been reported infighting in the MMD, which has resulted in two factions. Many political parties, including the ANC itself, have faced these challenges. How has this affected your party?
Well, obviously it has affected our party in many ways. Any organization that faces any kind of infighting, to whatever degree, is going to be disadvantaged in many ways. And again, let me go back to the fact that this was a doing of the ruling party. The ruling party put $2 million into my party to destabilize it, created another party within our party, illegitimately, without any legal basis. That grouping they have formed was just formed for the sake of dividing the MMD, because they realized that our party was, we were in government until 2011, and therefore the most extensive party, biggest party, spread across the entire country. So they felt that the only way to succeed was diminish our party, or disadvantage our party, or disrupt our party, and therefore invested millions of dollars in order to create a faction within our party. But it's artificial. We are in court, and I'm very, very confident that the courts are going to clear this discomfort that we faced. And therefore, yes, answering your question, it affected us.
Do you think that the splitting up of the MMD cost you and your coalition partners the election?
Well, let me put it this way. We did not lose the election. We won that election. I think it's a known fact that our alliance with our colleagues, the UPND and MMD, we won that election. It was almost daylight robbery. In fact, we have a petition waiting to be heard by the courts of law, and we hope and pray that the courts are going to hear the petition and let the nation know who really won that election. We believe we did.
As it is, you're still in opposition. So what do you see? What is your role being in opposition in Zambia?
Obviously, the word opposition in itself sometimes is misled. It's misleading. Our role really is to ensure that our values are not interfered with or abused by the government in power. Our role is to ensure that the liberties and the freedoms that were fought for by our forefathers are defended and protected. Our role is to ensure that the people in government do not abuse their positions and get into corrupt activities. And in this case, in Zambia, we're dealing with the corruption that extends to stealing an election. And therefore, we will continue to condemn those acts that are retrogressive, that make Africa look like a lost continent because of the type of governance we have. So our role really is to ensure that we safeguard the liberties and the freedoms for which our earlier fathers fought for and died for.
Absolutely. What does a platform like the SAPDC mean for opposition politics in Zambia and in Southern Africa?
Let me just mention that the formation of the SAPDC, as we are calling it, of opposition political parties in Southern region comes at the right time. Africa today, or our region today, has a problem where we have opposition leaders, opposition political parties being ambushed, being attacked, being destabilized by ruling parties. The SAPDC of the opposition is a mirror of the SADC of the heads of governments in Southern region. And therefore, by establishing another body that now challenges this club that has been created for themselves to stay in power, because these presidents, a lot of them support each other to do the wrong stuff, to imprison opposition leaders, to rig the elections, to stay in power perpetually. We believe the SAPDC that is being formed, for which, in which I am vice chairman, is going to level the playing field, that we are going to challenge politics at a regional level. So I'm really, really excited about this phenomena that has begun in Southern region, and also to be used to, to challenge activities like what happened in Gambia not too long ago. You saw how ECOWAS moved in to stabilize the situation. We have a problem in our SADC. We had a problem in Zimbabwe, SADC didn't move in. We had a problem last year in Zambia, SADC has been mute. And we would like for SADC to be challenged by our organization to take after what ECOWAS has been able to demonstrate, that it is possible to defend democracy.
Absolutely. What are your hopes and aspirations for the continent?
I think that we have reached a place where Africa is unstoppable in terms of becoming a world leader. The problem we have, obviously, is that Africa does not place a premium on its leadership or the way we choose leaders. We don't care who becomes president. And therefore, we are paying a huge price for this. We have a situation where the global world order has really changed. The spirit of Brexit, where Britain decides to pull out of the organized unity so that they can defend their individuality and their borders and their culture, which is extremely significant, is the same thing that has happened in the United States with the inauguration yesterday of President Donald Trump. He made it very clear, America first, borders sealed, protectionism comes in, everything belongs to America, nobody touches it. I think that's an opportunity for Africa. I'm not going to get involved in that kind of policy that they have assumed themselves as America. But I think Africa needs now to look back and say, all right, now then we have to count what we've got as a continent, protect it, and make sure that if anybody, the Americans, wants to deal with us, the same policy they use on us, we use it on them. In diplomacy, in which I have been involved as an ambassador, there's what we call the principle of reciprocity, where if one government does one thing, they impose visas on South Africa, you also impose visas on them. What Africa needs to do now is to make sure there's no Western country today that will fully survive without the African continent. Absolutely none. Most of the European economies are based on African gold, African diamonds, and African inheritance. So the moment they start to protect themselves, we need that type of leadership in Africa that is going to say, gentlemen, if you want to buy copper from us, we determine the price in Zambia, not at the London Metal Exchange. You want gold from South Africa? We determine the price here, not in Switzerland.
Absolutely.
That's what they're calling for. And I love it. What President Trump has begun, what Britain has begun, can only work for Africa in the positive. But we need to have brave enough leaders, intelligent leaders, leaders that have a heart for their people on the African continent. And no one should be intimidated by what President Donald Trump has said. I think we have a great continent, we get great resources, and the Western world, if they want to have a piece, even 1 meter of land in Zambia, they can't do it because it's Zambians first, or Africans first, or South Africans first. We will play the same diplomatic policy that they are put in place on them as they are playing it on us. So I am very passionate that Africa is at the brink of a tremendous breakthrough where we can manage our own affairs and be able to determine our own future.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Mumba, Vice Chairperson of the AIR SAPDIC and the leader of the MMD opposition party in Zambia. Thank you so much for watching Africa. Goodbye.